While Forrest and Matt get this desk onto the moving van, we're going to travel to the seacoast to meet a UNH professor who knows a lot about teamwork thanks to his oxen.
I grew up in Ware, New Hampshire, on a small farm. My parents let me sort of dibble-dabble in any kind of farm animals I wanted to keep, and I had horses and goats. And I eventually landed up with a team of oxen. I had a neighbor that had some oxen, and I used to hang around with him. It was about the time of the bicentennial, 1976. He was going to a lot of parades with his oxen, and I sort of fell in love with oxen. And from 1976 on, I sort of got into 4-H. New Hampshire has a really, really great 4-H program for kids that are interested in oxen. And from that point, I was 5 or 6 years training oxen in this 4-H program. And it really spurred my interest. But I never thought oxen would be anything more than that, sort of a childhood hobby. And as the years went on, and I went off to college in Missouri, I realized how unique of an experience that was. As I told people about training oxen as a kid, they were just sort of dumbfounded that people still used oxen anywhere in the United States. And from that point, I decided to write some of my experiences down and write down how we train oxen. And that later became my first book, The Oxen Handbook. And if I'm sort of noted for knowing anything about oxen, it sort of stemmed from that little book that I wrote, which was just about the experiences I had and how I trained oxen. And I've since written magazine articles and been involved in all sorts of other little oxen endeavors. Now, Rex, power over. Woo! The word to turn right is G, and I can say G, G. They're not doing anything, but as soon as I lift this whip up and move and say G, woo, ho. Now to say ha, I also twirl my whip in this way, ha. But even before I said the word, they were turning left because they saw the whip move. When I lift the whip up, it means come forward. When I drop the whip down, it means stop. So more than a physical thing, people see ox drivers with a whip and they think, it's cruelty. It's a visual cue more than anything. I mean, I'll back them up, back, 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 whoop. But if I throw the whip down and I say back, 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 they sort of do it, but not with the same enthusiasm. These are Devons. They're actually, the true name is an American milking Devon.
They went to
sort of
Colorado.
An Americanized version of an English breed called the Devon. And this was one of the first breeds in America. 250 years ago, this would have been the sought-after and most popular breed in New Hampshire. The crucible was shot in Massachusetts, so it actually was just an hour and a half from here. My oxen stayed on the set for 80 days. They had their own little corral, their own little tent. They had people that would feed them and care for them when I couldn't be there. I had to arrange my teaching schedule so I could sort of sneak away a day and a half or 2 days a week to the movie set. And my role was simply to make sure the oxen did what they were supposed to do. In a few scenes, I was sort of walking the streets as a grubby ox teamster with my oxen pulling a cart. But that in itself was a great experience. You get exposed to, real actors and actresses and the pressure that they're under to perform on these sets. Most of the time, I was just waiting. I mean, I was hanging around with oxen, 4 or 5 hours for that 3 minutes on film. Many people in third world countries don't use oxen. They don't have a history of it. And it was something that they thought they would bypass. They would go directly to tractors because of foreign aid and so forth. But what has happened is tractors fail miserably in a lot of really poor countries because spare parts are hard to get. Tractors fail because fuel is incredibly expensive. And they have a hard time maintaining them. But cows are everywhere, whether you're in Latin America or Africa. Everywhere you can find cows. And where you can find cows, you can find bulls to castrate and work. And that's sort of where my expertise has come in, is in showing people this simple technology of, just take a piece of wood, carve a yoke, grab your stick, and you've got 2 animals that can pull carts, plow your land, haul logs out of the forest, and do anything and everything a tractor could do. I've been working with Maasai, doing research on their adoption of oxen. Maasai are the sort of nomadic pastoralists that we often think of when we think of East Africa. Probably the most well-known tribe in all of Africa. And they are just beginning to use oxen in agriculture because they can't wander in and out of the grazing areas as they have in the past because of population pressure, because of wildlife areas. The Maasai have sort of had to settle down, much like other cultures have done hundreds, if not thousands of years before. And they're using oxen as part of that. And what I'm doing over there is not so much teaching Maasai. I'm trying to learn how this whole thing happens. I'm interviewing Maasai. I'm going to Maasai homesteads sort of all over northern Tanzania. And it's just been a fascinating experience. Instead of being the teacher, they're teaching me. The other interesting thing about Maasai is they consider all cattle in the world theirs. According to their religion and their God, that God gave cows to the Maasai and everyone else stole them away. So it's a Maasai man's God-given right to steal cows back. And that often gets them in trouble. And I asked a few Maasai, I said, if I lived here, would you steal my cows? They said, no, you're a white Maasai. We've never met a white man that can drive oxen like you can. I have a small place. We call our place Oxwood Farm because most of it's woods. And having a small team of oxen means I don't have to buy them as much feed. I have to end up buying a lot of the feed that these guys eat. And a small breed does everything I need. Like the early American farmers, I don't have a tractor. I have to haul my manure, haul my firewood. All of those things I can easily do with this little breed of animals. A number of years ago, I had a friend say, Drew, you must be the luckiest guy around, involved in movies, traveling the world, and at the same time pursuing your passion of oxen. In some ways, maybe there is luck involved in some of those things, but I think sometimes people too often give up on their dreams.